Have you ever been accused of motives you never had, blamed for a conflict you only observed, described by someone you trust in a way that feels utterly alien to your own reality? You begin to question yourself. Am I crazy? Am I the selfish one they describe? The great psychologist Carl Jung would tell you, you are not crazy. You are experiencing the most dangerous psychological sign he ever identified. And it does not come from an obvious enemy. It comes most often from someone who seems normal, even charming. The terrifying truth is this: they are not consciously lying. Their mind has rewritten reality to protect their own ego, and has cast you as the villain in a story they wholeheartedly believe. This is unconscious shadow projection, and arguing against it is like fighting a ghost. You cannot win. You can only learn to recognize it and to protect yourself. In this essential guide to psychological self-defense, we will not teach you how to change their mind. We will teach you how to trust your own. First, we will uncover the 5 unmistakable signs that you are the target of someone's shadow. Then, we will map the predictable pattern of escalation so you can see the danger before it consumes you. And most importantly, we will give you Jung's protection protocol, a practical framework to reclaim your peace and protect your sanity. This is not a lesson in how to win an argument. This is a lesson in how to stop participating in a war you never started. It is time to stop doubting what you see and start building a shield for your soul. The most dangerous psychological attacks are not loud. They are silent. They are not born of conscious malice, but of unconscious pain. And the most potent of these is what Carl Jung called shadow projection. To understand it, you must first grasp what the shadow is. The shadow is a psychological container where we store every part of ourselves we have been taught to deny. Our anger, our envy, our insecurity, our laziness, our greed. A healthy individual has a conscious relationship with their shadow. They can say, yes, a part of me can be envious, or I know I have a lazy streak. But for a person with a deeply repressed shadow, these traits are so unacceptable, so threatening to their self-image, that their psyche performs a desperate act of self-preservation. It takes that unacceptable trait and projects it onto someone else. It casts it out. The projector does not think, I am feeling insecure. Instead, their mind concludes with absolute certainty, you are trying to undermine me. The frightening part is this. This is not a metaphor. Modern neuroscience shows us that the brain actively rewrites memory and perception to avoid what is called cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding 2 conflicting beliefs. For the projector, the belief, I am a good person, is absolute. The feeling of envy is a direct contradiction to that belief. So to resolve the dissonance, the brain doesn't change the belief, it changes reality. It weaves a story, a narrative, in which you are the envious one, you are the aggressor. And it believes that story with the same conviction that you believe the sky is blue. Let's make this real. Let's return to Chloe. Chloe has a dear friend, Emily, whom she has known for years. Emily is a helper. She's always giving advice, always pointing out how others could improve their lives, always lamenting how selfish the world has become. Chloe, being the kind person she is, always listens, always supports. But recently, Chloe has started her own small business. It is beginning to find success. And the dynamic has shifted. Emily's advice now has a sharp edge to it. She says things like, you must be working all the time, don't neglect your family. Or, I hope you're not just doing this for the money. Last week,
Chloe won a small local award. When she shared the news, Emily was quiet for a moment and then said, "That's nice, just be careful it doesn't go to your head." Chloe felt that familiar, sinking feeling, the feeling of being misunderstood, of her joy being punctured. She is witnessing shadow projection in real time. Emily has a deep, unacknowledged shadow of envy and professional insecurity. Her self-image as the wise helper cannot coexist with the feeling of being envious of her friend's success. So, her psyche performs its magic trick. It projects the shadow. It recasts Chloe's ambition as selfishness. It recasts her success as arrogance. Emily is not consciously trying to hurt Chloe. In her rewritten reality, she is genuinely being a good friend, warning Chloe about the dangers of ego. She is attacking Chloe with the very traits she cannot face in herself. This is the mechanism, and it operates according to a predictable set of rules. To protect yourself, you must become a student of these patterns. There are 5 unmistakable warning signs that you are on the receiving end of a dangerous shadow projection. The first sign, absolute certainty. The projector doesn't just suspect your motives, they know them. They speak with the conviction of a prophet. They will use phrases like, "I know exactly why you're doing this," or "You're not fooling anyone." This absolute certainty is not a sign of insight. It is a defense mechanism against their own inner doubt. The second sign, immunity to evidence. You can present them with facts, with emails, with eyewitness accounts that contradict their story. It will not matter. Their brain will dismiss, distort, or ignore any data that threatens their narrative. Trying to reason with them is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. You are only feeding their story that you are manipulative and deceptive. The third sign is the disproportionate emotional reaction. The intensity of their anger, their hurt, or their accusation is wildly out of proportion to the actual event. A minor disagreement becomes a catastrophic betrayal. A simple question is interpreted as a vicious attack. This emotional intensity is the telltale sign that the reaction is not about the present moment. It is being fueled by years of their own repressed shadow energy. And the fourth sign, the victim narrative. In the story created by the projector, they are always the innocent victim. They are the one who is wronged, misunderstood, and attacked. This is not a conscious manipulation. To maintain their self-image as a good person, their psyche must cast them in the role of the victim. This makes you, by default, the aggressor. And the fifth and most insidious sign is the recruitment campaign. A projector cannot live in their rewritten reality alone. They need others to validate it. So they will begin to talk to your mutual friends, your family, your colleagues. They will not present it as gossip. They will frame it as concern. "I'm worried about Chloe. She's become so arrogant lately." They are not just sharing their story. They are recruiting an army to their version of reality, systematically isolating you until their projection becomes the consensus. This is the moment the danger becomes critical. Because the attack is no longer coming from one person. It is coming from your entire world.
To see the pattern is one thing. To act on it is another. Because the moment you consider protecting yourself, a powerful internal enemy arises. Guilt. For the kind person, the caregiver, the one who has built an identity on being reliable, the act of withdrawing can feel like a betrayal. It can feel more painful than the attack itself. And so, before we can build an external defense, we must first do a piece of internal work. We must perform the mirror exercise. Because the most honest form of shadow work requires us to ask one difficult question. Am I, in some small way,
projecting my own shadow. This is not about blaming yourself. This is about ensuring your actions come from a place of clarity, not reaction. Take a moment. Think of the person whose behavior is causing you distress. And ask yourself with radical honesty, is the trait that bothers me so much in them a trait that I am refusing to acknowledge in myself? Perhaps their perceived arrogance is a reflection of your own unacknowledged ambition. Perhaps their perceived neediness is a reflection of your own suppressed vulnerability. Sometimes the answer will be no, but the act of asking is crucial. It cleans your lens. It ensures that when you act, you are acting as a surgeon, not a soldier. Once you have done this essential piece of self-reflection, you are ready to implement Carl Jung's protection protocol. This is not a confrontation. It is a strategic, energetic withdrawal. It is a quiet revolution of self-preservation. There are 6 steps. Step 1. Trust your body's wisdom. Your rational mind can be gaslit. Your body cannot. Your body is your oldest, most honest intelligence. When you feel that subtle knot in your stomach before a phone call with a certain person, when your shoulders tense up the moment they walk into a room, that is not anxiety. That is data. Your nervous system is a highly sensitive instrument detecting the dissonance between their words and their reality. The first step is to honor that physical signal above all else. Believe your body. It knows the truth. Step 2. Do not engage the narrative. This is the most difficult and most powerful step. You must accept that you cannot win an argument against a rewritten reality. When they accuse you of a motive you never had, your instinct is to defend, to explain, to provide evidence. You must resist this urge. Every word of your defense is simply more material for their fictional story. Instead, you offer a simple, calm, and non-defensive response. Something like, "I hear that you see it that way," or "I understand that is your perspective." You are not agreeing with them. You are simply acknowledging their reality without accepting it as your own. You are refusing to play a character in their movie. This act of non-engagement is profoundly disarming. Step 3. Reduce the flow of information. A projector feeds on information. Every personal story you share, every vulnerability you reveal, can and will be used as a potential weapon in their unconscious narrative. You must put them on an information diet. Keep your conversations brief, factual, and impersonal. Talk about the weather. Talk about the news. Do not talk about your dreams, your fears, your struggles. Your inner world is now a protected territory. Access is granted by invitation only. Step 4. Document the reality. When you are being systematically gaslit, your own memory can begin to feel unreliable. You start to think, did that really happen? Am I overreacting? Your defense against this is to become a meticulous record keeper. After a disturbing interaction, take 2 minutes to write down factually what was said and done. Date it. This is not for a court of law. This is for the court of your own sanity. This journal becomes your anchor to reality, a testament you can turn to when the waves of their distorted narrative threaten to pull you under. Step 5. Seek an outside mirror. A projector isolates you to control the reality. Your countermove is to seek outside reflection. Share your experience with 1 or 2 trusted, grounded friends who are outside the immediate social circle. Do not present it as drama. Present it as a psychological puzzle you are trying to solve. Say, "This was said, and this was my experience of it. How does that land with you?" A healthy, objective perspective from the outside is a powerful antidote to the poison of a closed reality distortion field. And the final, most courageous step: strategic withdrawal and overcoming guilt. Sometimes, the only winning move is not to play. If a person's shadow projection is persistent and harmful, you have a right to withdraw your energy. This does not have to be a dramatic exit. It can be a slow, quiet fade. You take longer to answer texts. You are busy more often. You reduce the frequency of contact from once a week to once a month to once a season. And as you do this, the guilt will scream. It will tell you that you are a bad friend, a bad daughter, a bad person. This is the moment of your greatest test. Your work is to see the guilt for what it is, the withdrawal symptom from a lifelong addiction to people-pleasing. It is a ghost from the old operating system. You must sit with it, breathe through it, and hold the line. Because on the other side of that wall of guilt lies the quiet, peaceful landscape of your own sovereign territory, a space where your reality is the only one that matters.
Mastering the art of recognizing shadow projection is a foundational skill for psychological sovereignty. It is like learning to see in the dark. But it is not the only pattern you will encounter in the wild landscape of the human psyche. Jung identified several other dangerous signs that often coexist with projection, creating a complex web of unconscious dynamics. Recognizing them adds layers to your protective shield. The first of these is ego inflation. This is the state where a person's ego has become inflated like a balloon, identifying itself with an archetype or a divine quality. They don't just have a good idea, they believe they are a visionary genius. They are not just helpful, they see themselves as a savior. The warning sign here is an absolute inability to admit fault, to be corrected, or to entertain a different point of view. Their inflated ego is so fragile that any pinprick of criticism threatens its total collapse. When you encounter this, know that you are not dealing with a confident person. You are dealing with a terrified ego, and it will defend its illusion at all costs. The second is identification with the persona. The persona, in Jungian terms, is the social mask we wear to function in the world. The good doctor, the tough boss, the spiritual guru. The danger arises when a person forgets the mask is a mask. They become the role they are playing. The doctor who cannot stop being a doctor with his own children. The CEO who treats her partner like an employee. The warning sign is a complete lack of authentic, vulnerable human connection. You will feel that you are always interacting with a performance, not a person. And a persona, by its nature, cannot truly connect. It can only manage, direct, and present. And the third, and perhaps most subtle, is the repetition compulsion. This is an unconscious drive to repeat a traumatic pattern from the past over and over in a desperate attempt to master it. A woman whose father abandoned her may find herself unconsciously drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable. A man who was controlled by his mother may find himself in jobs with controlling female bosses. The danger for you, as an empath, is that you can be unconsciously cast in a role in their psychic play. If their unresolved trauma is with a betrayer, their psyche may maneuver you into a position where you inevitably have to betray them in some small way, just to prove the pattern correct. The warning sign is a feeling of being pulled into a drama that feels strangely familiar and that has very little to do with you. You will feel like you are reading lines from a script you never agreed to audition for. Ego inflation, persona identification, repetition compulsion. These are not judgments. They are diagnostic tools. They are patterns of the unconscious crying out for awareness. And this brings us to the ultimate purpose of this entire exploration, the ethical center of this work. This knowledge, this ability to see the shadow, to see these patterns, is not a weapon to be wielded in judgment. It is not a license to go on a shadow hunt, pointing out the flaws in everyone you meet. To do so would be to fall into the very trap of ego inflation we just described. It would be to create a new, more sophisticated persona, the one who knows. The true purpose of seeing the shadow in others is to see the shadow in yourself. Carl Jung called this the mirror effect. Every person you encounter is a mirror. The person whose arrogance infuriates you is mirroring a part of your own shadow where your ambition lies dormant or where you fear your own pride. The person whose weakness you despise is mirroring a part of your own vulnerability that you have deemed unacceptable. The person whose freedom you admire is mirroring a potential in your own soul that is waiting to be liberated. When you feel a strong emotional reaction to someone, positive or negative, the most profound question you can ask is not, what is wrong with them? It is, what part of me is this person showing me? This is the heart of true shadow work. It is the alchemy that transforms judgment into compassion and conflict into self-awareness. The protection protocol we discussed is not for building a fortress to hide from the world. It is for creating a safe internal laboratory, a sacred space where you can study the reflections the world brings to you without being shattered by them. It is where you can do the courageous work of withdrawing your own projections, of taking responsibility for your own triggers, and of integrating the very traits you once condemned in others. So yes, learn to spot the red flags. Protect your sanity. Withdraw when necessary. But do not stop there. Use every interaction, every frustration, every difficult person as a curriculum for your own soul's education. This is the ultimate secret. The shield you build to protect yourself from their shadow eventually becomes the mirror in which you finally, truly meet your own.
Today, we have journeyed into the shadowlands of the human psyche. We began with that unsettling feeling of being gaslit, of having your reality questioned by someone you trust. We gave a name to that invisible attack, unconscious shadow projection. We learned that this is not a conscious act of cruelty, but a desperate defense mechanism of a fragile ego, a brain that rewrites reality to avoid its own truth. We armed you with the 5 unmistakable warning signs to recognize this pattern, from absolute certainty to the insidious recruitment campaign that seeks to isolate you. You are no longer a passive target. You are now an informed observer. And then we went deeper. We gave you Carl Jung's protection protocol, not as a set of rules, but as a framework for sovereignty, a guide to trust your body's wisdom, to disengage from narratives that are not yours, and to do the courageous work of strategic withdrawal, even in the face of guilt. This is the practical art of psychological self-defense. But we also discovered that shadow projection is not the only ghost in the machine. We learned to recognize the inflated ego, the person who has become their social mask, and the soul caught in the tragic loop of a repetition compulsion. This knowledge is your shield. But here, at the end of our journey, lies the most important truth. The ultimate purpose of this shield is not to hide from the world. It is to give you a safe space from which to see the world and yourself more clearly. The final stage of this work is to turn the lens inward, to embrace the mirror effect, to understand that every person who enters your life is a messenger, bringing you a piece of your own forgotten soul. The person who triggers your deepest anger is a teacher, showing you where your boundaries need to be fortified. The person who inspires your deepest admiration is a guide, showing you the golden parts of your own shadow
that are waiting to be claimed. This is the profound secret of shadow work. It begins as a way to protect yourself from others. It ends as a way to integrate yourself. The freedom you seek is not freedom from difficult people. It is the freedom to be so whole, so grounded in your own reality, that no projection can shake you. And every interaction, no matter how challenging, becomes another opportunity to know yourself more deeply. Your sanity is not a fragile thing that needs to be defended from the outside world. It is a fortress that is built from the inside out, through the courageous, daily practice of self-awareness and self-trust. But what if the danger to your soul is not a person at all? What if it is a place, an invisible environment, a psychological prison you walk into every single day that silently drains your energy, erodes your sense of self, and rewires your brain to work against your own happiness? Jung identified 7 of these deadly mental landscapes, and recognizing them is the next critical step in reclaiming your soul's territory. We will map those invisible prisons in our next journey together. For now, your work is to honor the shield you have built today. It is to make a solemn vow to your own perception. In the comments below, I invite you to make this commitment, a quiet declaration of your own inner authority. Write the words, "I trust my own perception." Let this be your mantra. Let this be your anchor in the storm of others' realities. By writing it, you are casting a vote for your own sanity. You are declaring that the most important voice in your life is your own. Thank you for your courage to see, and for the greater courage to look within.